I firstly endorse the incisive comments of my coalition colleagues. We had the Honourable Damien Tudor-Hope, the Honourable Sarah Mitchell, the Honourable Scott Farlow and the Honourable Chris Rath. It's very clear that this budget does not deliver where it's needed most, and we know that under a Labor government you're always going to pay more. The Honourable Damien Tudor-Hope has clearly outlined the grim reality that New South Wales is facing under a Minns-Mookie Labor reign. The highest taxing government in a generation, with an additional $5.5 billion collected from taxpayers in the next financial year alone. A fiscally prudent government would invest the windfalls gained from payroll tax and stamp duty in measures that strengthen the economic outlook, like trade, enterprise and infrastructure. Instead, what we get from this government is a talking down of the outlook and an introduction of uncapped public sector wage rises unlinked to any productivity gains. We know that these are precisely the kinds of spending measures that cause rating agencies to downgrade the New South Wales economy. The Honourable Damien Tudor-Hope has already outlined very clearly the need for fair, responsible and most importantly transparent budgeting. The reality is in New South Wales that average wages are $200 per week higher for people in the public sector compared to those in the private sector. Wherever possible, we should be encouraging small businesses to grow and employ workers, encouraging people to invest in a home, and encouraging environmentally sustainable behaviour. This is why it is so disappointing to see that the Labor government is not only scrapping the electric vehicle rebate, worth $3,000 for people buying EVs that cost under $68,750, it is also scrapping stamp duty exemptions for electric vehicles and removing road user toll exemptions for electric vehicle drivers. Why are these changes so disappointing? The reality is that this government is telling the people of New South Wales that you need to be wealthy to own an EV and to reap the rewards, particularly that of cheaper fuel and reduced operating costs, let alone reducing carbon emissions. Because electric vehicles are critical components of reducing emissions, where transport accounts for 20% of the state's total emissions, a huge proportion from a single source. In response to this very obvious link between the source of a problem and its output, in 2022, the coalition government launched the state's first electric vehicle strategy. It included an investment of $633 million to make New South Wales the easiest place to buy and use an EV in Australia. The strategy is intended to increase EV sales by 52% by 2030-31 and help New South Wales achieve net zero emissions by 2050. Because take-up matters. Getting more people into EVs instead of in petrol or diesel vehicles is a crucial part of reducing our emissions. Beyond Zero emissions say that a shift to EVs for urban travel across the country would eliminate 6% of Australia's greenhouse gas emissions, and that goes to 8% if regional car travel is included. They say that this would make a major dent in Australia's emissions while delivering a range of benefits to individuals. Because EVs are also quieter, resulting in less noise pollution, have advanced safety features, reducing the likelihood of accidents, and will improve air quality in urban areas, they will be better for the people of New South Wales. They also result in reduced fuel costs, have higher efficiency, and require less maintenance. All of these features are incredibly beneficial for consumers and the community. And don't just take my word for it. Hear what EV Council CEO Bayad Jafari had to say in December last year, when former Treasurer Keane announced an updated target of cutting emissions to 70% by 2035. Mr Jafari said, and I quote, "The New South Wales government have been quicker than others to recognise if you want to hit proper emission reduction targets, you need strong measures to transition to electric vehicles." He continued, "For the past 2 years, they, meaning New South Wales, have been the Electric Vehicle Council's top-rated state in terms of policy action to support EV take-up. While the other states have targets, New South Wales has been the only state that has taken real action to back up the figures. And the figures matter. Since the commencement of the EV stamp duty and rebate incentives on the 1st of September, 1/3 of EV registrants were paid a rebate. The total number of new passenger EV registrations led to an abatement of 5,100 tonnes reduction of CO2, and since 2020, the battery EV portion of new light vehicles has increased exponentially. Another target the coalition government introduced was that all government passenger vehicles would be EVs by 2030, with a 50% milestone by 2026. Will the Minns-Mookie Labor government continue this excellent policy? If it's good enough for the government, it should be good enough for the people of New South Wales. Scrapping the $3,000 rebate, reinstating stamp duty, and introducing the road user tax of 2.5 cents per kilometre 3 or 4 years earlier than anticipated will result in one thing: making it harder for the people of New South Wales to buy EVs, and secondly, it will reduce the positive impacts that this policy could have had on our environment. In the midst of a cost of living crisis, it is ludicrous to make it harder for people to take action that is good for the environment. Again, referring to comments made by Bayard Jafari, though more recently yesterday morning, that these EV decisions were made in secret is also very concerning. What a stunning thing to know that this government failed to even consult the peak body, the Electric Vehicle Council, on the impact of such a policy change. How can we trust the assumptions that this government has made in the budget if we know that they prefer to meet with union bosses rather than industry experts? Good governments put in place incentives and disincentives that drive, pardon the pun, desirable outcomes. Instead, what we get, this is the highest taxing government in a generation that is not interested in helping the people of New South Wales address the climate crisis through important personal actions that make meaningful changes to our emissions contributions.